All right, so the next section of the written esthetician exam is going to be section 3, skincare. It is 15% of your exam and will be made up of 11 questions. Those questions are going to come from physiology and histology of the skin analysis, and that skin analysis section is going to include skin types and skin conditions. So some of the same chapters apply for this one, which is chapter 5, skin analysis, but you're also going to want to focus on chapter 3, physiology and histology of the skin, and chapter 2, anatomy and physiology. You need just very little of the anatomy and physiology, mostly the physiology section, not the anatomy, but you have anatomy and physiology, and then you have physiology and histology of the skin. So chapter 2, 3, and 5 from fundamentals. You want to know informations like the layers of the skin, the layers of the epidermis, the difference between the sudoriferous glands and the sebaceous glands. So when I said the anatomy and physiology and anatomy and the physiology and histology, that's going to be the glands and what the skin is actually made up of. What are the 3 facial nerves that are most important to an esthetician? What does physiology stand for? So the vocabulary is going to be really big from these 3 chapters, as well as understanding the layers and the functions of the skin. So anatomy and physiology and histology of the skin. And then for the skin analysis, what is the Fitzpatrick scale used for? Remember, we just got that vocabulary word for Fitzpatrick. So we know it's a skin typing system from 1 to 6, lightest or fairest to darkest. And you can determine it based on eye color, skin color, all of those things. So knowing the Fitzpatrick definition helps us in both sections of this exam. And then you want to name and define the 6 levels of the Fitzpatrick. And then what is the purpose of a skin analysis for this section? You also want to be comfortable with skin types, oily, normal, dry combination, and be able to define them. Same for skin conditions. All the skin conditions listed in the skin conditions chapter. So all of those skin conditions listed, you are going to want to go in and actually list them individually and study the skin conditions, what they contraindicate. So if you have it, what are you contraindicated to? Is it a disorder or disease? Is it contagious? Is it pathogenic or non-pathogenic? Is it how is it caused? Is it something that you are able to work on for a client, or is it something that you would need to, refer to a physician, so on and so forth? You're also going to want to do the same for the section as a whole. So how many questions are coming from this section? We know that it's 11. So it's right up there with licensing and regulation and hair removal. So skincare, hair removal, and then licensing and regulation as far as order of importance. As far as me studying them, obviously you want to give equal time to each section if you can, but your infection control, your facial treatments are going to be my most important. Then skincare, hair removal, licensing and regulation are my next importance. And then my last is makeup, because it's the smallest of the sections. But skincare, 11 questions. So it's a lot of information. The way I like to approach studying the skincare section, the physiology, the histology, the anatomy, the skin analysis, is this is what you use as an esthetician day to day. So I would make sure that I was confident with this chapter regardless, because this is the chapter that's going to make or break you as an esthetician and in skincare. So if skincare is not your jam, okay, you may not spend as much time understanding the skin types and skin conditions. But if skincare is what you're actually out here to do, this is something that you are going to want to know anyway to be confident and competent as an esthetician. So this is the easiest of the sections, in my opinion, because you need to know this stuff to go work. You need to know this stuff to properly do services and treatments. So you might as well get a leg up on these, right away. Okay, let's go to I think we downloaded our physiology chapter. Let's see. Yep. I'm going to open the physiology and histology of the skin chapter so that we can look at it and kind of go through some of the information. So describing the attributes of healthy skin or the integumentary system, you're going to want to know the definition of the integumentary system, You're gonna want to know the primary functions of the skin. So distinguish the 6 primary functions: sensation, protection, heat regulation, excretion, secretion, absorption. You're gonna want to know those for the state board. And you're gonna want to know those for everyday life as an esthetician. A pro tip is any of the did you knows for this chapter are really going to be beneficial for you as an esthetician. This is where that next level information is coming from. This is where those key points are coming from. So I'm going to do the did you know from page 88. It says, did you know the microscopic view of the structure of the epidermis resembles a brick wall? The cells are the bricks, and the intercellular matrix is the cement mortar between the bricks that hold everything together. So when looking at the did you know, it will actually take the terms like transepidermal water loss, intercellular matrix, hyperlipic, hydrolipic, barrier function. It'll take those technical terms and relay them in a way that is not common sense, but more so real world scenario, real life scenario, because all of us have seen a brick house. So if you think of our skin, if you think of our body the same way, you would understand that the goal of a brick house is to be sturdy, is to be strong. So our skin is sturdy, our skin is strong. The things in between the brick, in the case of an actual home, a mortar, the mortar in between the bricks that keeps those bricks put together, keeps them from being broken or pushed down. That is what our skin has. So we have to protect that mortar on the inside, and we also have to protect the bricks so that we have a strong foundation when it comes to our skin. So for studying for this section of the exam, I would absolutely know my did you knows. I would know the 6 functions of the skin, the subcutaneous and the layers of the skin. So subcutaneous tissue and what is in the subcutaneous layer and what it's composed of, the dermis, the layer that is the dermis itself and what's within that layer. The epidermis, I like to call the epidermis our office. That's the outermost layer of the skin. What is within that layer and how it all functions. That's what you're getting from this chapter. What the skin is made of and how it all functions. If you want to simplify it as much as possible, that is what you're talking about. What the skin is made of and how it functions. Once you know that, you're going to be able to navigate through this chapter and this section of the exam. What I can tell you, this is a big vocabulary section. You can't guess your way between the difference in the stratum granulosum and the stratum lucidum. You have to know the vocabulary. Same with melanin, melanocytes, and melosomes. You want to know the definitions of these words. You want to know what they mean. It's some activities in here. It's also that vocabulary is laid out and ready to go. There's also key points in the chapter where it actually tells you like a little summary or a synopsis. So right here, I have it highlighted. It says dermis divided into 2 subdivisions, reticular and papillary. And then you have fibroblasts and immune cells are found in these layers. So if it's asking you about fibroblasts and where it's located, you're going to need to know that it's located within the dermis. The reticular layer, the papillary layer, epidermis, which again, our office, the outermost layer. There is most likely going to be a question asking you about the layers of the skin and their order. So I would make myself comfortable with the layers of the skin and their order. A little bit information of the hair follicle and the appendages themselves. I wouldn't worry too much about the nail appendages. I didn't see much of that on your state board exam. I could be, you're going to all get a different exam. So it depends on the exam you get. But I definitely didn't get any nail information on my exam. And I don't know anyone who had, who specifically pointed out any nail information as far as the nail and its appendages. I did get information about the glands in the skin. So if you will make a note to yourself to put the glands of the skin so that you understand. You have the sebaceous oil glands, you have the sudoriferous or sweat glands, you have the apocrine and the eccrine glands that you want to be familiar with, and then not very much about immune system in the skin, a little bit about skin nourishment, what's nourishing the skin, where that's coming from, sun damage for sure. So the difference between UVA or aging rays, UVB, and UVC rays. So you want to understand the difference in all of those rays. The book summarizes it for you where it says UVA or aging rays, about 5% are absorbed. You have UVB, which are burning rays, about 95% are absorbed. Then you have UVC, or the rays that are not making it past the ozone layer, so we're not normally affected by them. On your exam, they're going to ask you about the UVA and the UVB rays. So you want to study and understand both UVA radiation and UVB. And here you have sun damage that's going to summarize and talk about UVA and UVB rays. For this chapter, a little bit about free radical damage, which is can be a result of the UVA and the UVB rays, but I don't specifically remember having a section in the exam. Same with glycation or skin and hormones. Yeah, neither one of those ring a bell as far as the chapter itself goes. For physiology and histology of the skin, I would focus more so on those main points. Again, for skin analysis, it's telling you right here, they are interested in skin types and skin conditions. So when I go into my skin analysis chapter, anything that says a skin type or skin condition, and I've got it pulled up, and let's just go through it from the beginning. There it is. Okay, you see how the skin conditions list and description is listed out, and it continues throughout the book. I would have every one of these written down, and I'm personally going to record myself reading them, but I would write these down and have flashcards over these skin conditions and the skin types. You're absolutely going to want to know these and be confident in these so that you can, one, be a really proficient esthetician, but two, because this is the kind of stuff they're going to ask you about in that chapter. The difference in skin sensitivities. So there are physical reactions such as erythema, edema, wheals, itching, stinging, discomfort from internal and external influences on the skin. So they may ask you to identify which of these symptoms is the closest relating to erythema. If you don't know what erythema is, then how are you going to answer the question? Same for pustules. They're going to ask you a pustule versus a papule. So a papule is a raised lesion, also called a blemish, versus a pustule, which is an infected papule with fluid inside. So there are stages to acne, right? There's stage 1, stage 2. There's stages to acne. So in order for a pustule to become a lesion to become a pustule, it has to first be a papule, because papule is a raised lesion called a blemish. That papule has to get infected with fluid inside to become a pustule. So if they ask you which is a stage 1 and which is a stage 2, papule versus pustule. You can't have a pustule if it was never a papule. So if you don't understand the key difference, you're going to struggle. But if you can go in and start studying that information now, then you'll be okay. Another one that they're most likely going to ask is about pigmentation. Please know the difference between hyper and hypopigmentation. One is an excess, one is a lack of pigment. Hyper. The root words will help you out a lot. Hyper, an overactive, extra, more of, versus hypo, a lack of, less than, very little. So understanding the words themselves is going to help you out, but pigmentation is definitely going to be on the exam. Acne lesions and the difference between them will be on the exam. The skin types, the skin conditions, as far as referring to more so the pigmentation, cancer lesions. So the A, B, and C's of cancers, melasma, And then the acne lesion types are all conditions that I would recommend you being very, very comfortable with, not just because you're going to need them for the exam, but because that's what you're going to see in your everyday, in your treatment room. You can also this is a general list of contraindications for treatments. I'd be familiar with those. And internal and external factors, your client forms, like the different documents and what each of them capture. So consent form and client chart are different things. One is going to be used at one point, the other is going to be used at another. So understanding the difference in the types of documents and what they collect is going to be important to know. How to perform a skin analysis is going to be important to know as well. The Milady has a general step-by-step guide. We used the Milady to create the step-by-step guide that you were trained on. So it's the same thing, but if you'd like to, go word for word based on this, absolutely no problem. But essentially you want to make the time to really dive into the skin analysis chapter and the physiology, histology of the skin chapter and the anatomy chapter. Those are the 3 chapters in your book that are going to make you a better esthetician than your competition. Okay. Other than that, it's only 11 questions. Like I said, it's a secondary primary focus. So after you're confident in infection control and facial treatments, section 3, skincare, 15% of your exam or 11 questions is where I would put my focus to next. Do we have any questions on that chapter?